Make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door. Make your day richer.
You always know when a podcast host is on the show because they show up on time, they show up early, they show up with great lighting and a microphone, and they're right in the middle of the camera. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Make Your Day Richer. I'm here with Jody Powell. Hi, Jody.
Hey, Richard, how are you?
I am fantastic. How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. It was beautiful here. I'm in sunny South Carolina, and it was a little
Wait, you're in
hot.
South Carolina?
I am in South Carolina. Yes.
So am I.
Are you really?
Yeah,
I had no idea. I'm in Greenville.
Oh, I'm in Lancaster, kind of by Waxhaw.
Yeah.
Right on the
Yeah.
border.
Know exactly where that is. Yeah, I've
We'll
lived in Greenville all my life, actually.
my
So
gosh.
I know exactly where you are.
I have been here almost a year. I moved from Texas last July, and I
Okay.
love it in South Carolina.
It's beautiful. I'm assuming it was as hot in Lancaster as it was here in Greenville. Over 90 degrees
Yes.
this weekend. But that's my jam, man. That's what I love. I love the heat. I love the humidity. This is my favorite time of year.
Yeah, Texas, it's not as like awful as Texas, right?
Right.
But it's also, I grew up in Wisconsin, so it's also not as awful as Wisconsin in the middle of January as well. So I love it
Absolutely.
here.
That's great. Yeah,
Great.
awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool.
How long have you been doing podcasting and hosting? I know, you have a long history of being a speaker, but when did podcasting come into it?
I've wanted to do podcasting for several years, and I've always just held myself back. I've just said I don't have time, or I'm not going to be good enough, or it's not going to be great. I had an opportunity toward the end of last year to really just take some time and really focus on the things that I want to focus on. And so I started my podcast actually the first week of January of this year.
Oh, wow.
So I'm publishing weekly, and so I'm up to my 24th episode, and knock on wood, I haven't missed a week yet.
Congratulations.
Well, thank
a lot
you.
of work, right?
It's a lot of work. It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And how I actually got into it, a lot of my mentors who are speaker were telling me, you need a book. You need a book to go with your keynote. I don't have a book. I haven't written a book. I am working on it, but I'm not there yet, right? So I'm thinking, how in the world can people hear me without paying me to come and then hope they get a good speech? Well, jump into podcasting, and I can just send them a link, say, hey, check out a couple of episodes of my podcast. And that gives them the opportunity to hear me. That's how it started. What it's turned into has been something amazing, because I've met so many people, so many interesting people, and they've given me so many different opportunities to things that I never thought I would do.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun to network and to meet new people and to hear stories. And my podcast focuses on quotes, inspirational quotes, and I just love to talk about that. So to hear the story behind someone's favorite quote, that's what's fascinating to me. That's what inspires me.
Yeah, it's the Quotivation Podcast is the title of it, and it's such a great concept. I love the concept and love the people that you've had on. Can you talk a little bit more about the actual podcast and kind of the format of it and the type of people that you've been having on?
Absolutely. So I love to kick it off with just what I call a shot of motivation. If you don't listen to the entire podcast, at the very first 10 minutes of it, I'm giving whatever's on my heart in terms of what I think people want to hear, in terms of being motivated, inspired, something that's happened to me, whatever it is. So I give them just a shot of motivation. It's like taking a shot, but it's not alcohol. You're taking a shot of inspiration.
Well, I mean, you look like you're in a jazz club, so I mean.
Well, yeah, well, I've got the bar set. No, I don't. But yeah, so we go from shot of motivation right into our special guest for the week, and I am wide open to who comes on my show. If they love quotes, if they have an inspirational quote, if they have a story behind it, I love to have people on that just tell stories. And our podcast is very conversational. I don't have scripts. I don't have scripted questions. I'm like, let's just chat, and we go from there, and it works. I've had everyone from some of my favorites have been, I've had a former professional wrestler, Mark Smith, who is a fantastic, just a wonderful story, a fantastic person. I've had gosh, speakers, world champion speakers. My very first episode was with someone who was kind of an idol of mine. He was a world champion in Toastmasters in 2015. His name's Muhammad Katani. And he did a powerful speech in the finals that I just loved. The funny thing about that is I reach out to him, and email him, and I'm saying, hey, I'm doing this podcast. You could be my first guest, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I'll never hear from him. 10 minutes later, boom, I get an email. It's like, yes, let's do it. I'm like, great. I'll do it whenever you want to, right? And so he sends me back this time. It's like, let's do it at 11 a.m. And then he puts these letters beside it, like GMT plus 3 or something like that. I'm like, yes, let's do it. That's 3 a.m. Eastern time, Richard. 3 a.m. I had to stay up all night to do this. But you know what? You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
He was in Saudi Arabia. I didn't know where he was. I didn't think to ask. It's my first one. What was I going to do? So that was a great one. It was my first one, so I was terrible. It gets better as it goes along, but just some really fun people, interesting stories, and I love to share that. My biggest thing, though, I want people that listen to my podcast to win their week. That's what I want from, if someone could come back and say, you know what, I got inspiration from what I heard from your podcast, and it helped me just move myself forward toward whatever goal they want to achieve. That is success for me. That's what I want them to do.
I love that that's been sort of a genre that I feel like is popping up all of a sudden. This show, and my show included, is stealing from your show of like positivity and not like, craziness or celebrity driven, like entertainment, stuff like that. It really is just positive stories I feel like are coming out so much now. And I love that.
And we need that.
Yeah.
We need that. There's so much negativity in the world. There's so much negativity in the news. One of my guests was a former news journalist and anchor here locally, and he was doing it for 35 years. He said, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Everything that they were talking about it was crippling. And it can, and he said it can crush your soul. And that's what the news is right now. It's everything negative, it's everything bad. So we need something to counteract that. We need to let people know that, hey, there are positive things going on in the world. And gosh, we need it so bad right now.
Yeah. It's a great podcast. You should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I also want to talk about your speech of unshackling your potential and what that means to you and what that should mean to other people.
Yeah, Unshackled is something that is really, it's a little bit of an autobiography. Because like I said, even with the podcast, I was putting shackles upon myself. There was self-doubt, there was complacency, there was fear. All of these captors were just holding me back from even doing a simple podcast. It's hard work, but it's not hard to start. Anyone can do a podcast, and just about everyone's doing one. Yeah. But
I think I just read there are like 4 million active podcasts right now. That's insane.
It is insane. I don't doubt that. And there are great ones. There are some that start and they do 3 episodes and they realize, I don't want to do this. And that's all great because you're exploring. You're trying to find the thing that you want to do. For me, it was just I was holding myself back, and that was really the lesson that I learned. That I just had a friend pour into me, and they said, "Listen, you need to just shut up and do it. Just do it." And I'm like, you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. If it was going to be perfect the first time, I would never do it. And so I did. I decided to do it and roll with it. And I realized so quickly that there were so many things that were holding me back that I do to myself. And I really think, in my keynote, Unshackled, I talk about 4 captors. And the 4 main captors, I think we can group all of our self-imposed captivity into these 4 buckets. It's either fear, self-doubt, shame, or complacency. And they're all imposed by our worst enemy, ourselves. Yeah. We all put that on ourselves. No one, and if there is someone in your life that's pouring into you that causes you to doubt or that causes you to feel like you can't do something, then maybe you need to reevaluate who you're hanging around. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because you need to surround yourself with people that uplift you, not hold you back. But the person that holds us back the most, I think, is ourselves. We're our own worst enemy, and our enemy knows us very well. We know what buttons to push with ourselves.
That's so true. How did you learn that?
I've learned that over far too many years and far too many experiences.
It's taken all the way up until January of 2024 to figure that out,
Essentially,
right?
you know, it really has. It's been, you know, throughout my career, there have been things that I've wanted to do, things I want to say, ideas that I want to propose that I just wouldn't. They're going to think I'm stupid. They're going to think that's a dumb idea. I'm not going to say that. And you know what happens? Like 10 minutes later, someone else says your idea and everyone's like, oh, what a great idea. And I'm like, no, that's my idea. Don't say that. So, you know, just over time, I've just developed these processes to overcome these shackles. For example, I'll give you a good example. Self-doubt. Self-doubt is a big one for me. Everything that I do, I'm like, well, it's not going to be good enough. You know, it's just people aren't going to like it. You know, all of the things, all of the phrases that come to mind. But there was one thing that really, it was just a little voice that just popped into my head. And it was probably a quote. Someone's probably said it. I probably read it somewhere because I've read a million quotes. But it said, don't let the things you can't do stop you from doing the things you can do. And it just really stuck with me. And I started thinking about it. You know, there are so many examples of that. You know, if you go to the gym and you want to lift, you want to bench press 280 pounds, whatever, you don't walk in the first day and put 280 pounds on the bar. You got to start with, you know, the 100, then work your way to the 120. Focus on the things you can do. And before you know it, you look around and you're doing the things that you didn't think you could do. Yeah. Because it's just repetition and it's practice. It's better. You're bettering yourself, getting a little bit better every single day. That's how you overcome the self-doubt. You start to see those results. You begin to believe in yourself. And that captor, that self-doubt captor, turns into a catapult. And what I mean by that is you turn your captors into catapults and they thrust you forward into a thriving life. And that's how you overcome these captors. It's not about escaping. Becoming unshackled or breaking free from your shackles. It's not about escaping because we're doing it to ourselves. We're not escaping ourselves. We're overcoming. And so when we overcome these things, you turn that fear into energy and you use that energy for good and you use that energy for what you want to do instead of allowing that energy to hold you back. So it just turns those captors into catapults.
Well, your friends are right. You do need to write a book.
I'm working on it. I
feel like I was listening to the audiobook right now and I loved it.
Well, good.
Is that speech available somewhere or is that like
I'm available to come speak wherever you need to come speak.
Okay, good. And how do people connect with you? Where do people find you?
Absolutely. You can go to my website, www.jodypowellspeaks.com. It's Jody. Everyone's like, how do you spell Jody? It's Y-I-I-E, Jody. powellspeaks.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You can just search for me there. You can send an email if you're interested in the podcast, send the email to the quotivationpodcast@gmail.com. I am accepting all guests and we have a quick conversation. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your quote. And then we hop on Zoom, we record it and we launch it. It's an easy process, especially for guests. That's the biggest thing. And you do a wonderful job of this. You got to make it easy for your guests. Yeah. Send them a link, let them show up and there we go.
Yeah. So even people watching or listening can come on the show as well.
Absolutely. I don't limit my guests. In fact, I think some of the greatest stories come from the most unknown people. And so, you know, we hear celebrity stories, we hear some, you know, these tragic tales of overcoming and of these famous people. But I think some of the most powerful messages come from people we've never heard of, just ordinary people. And I think going back to my friend who was a guest and who was in the news, I think that's what we're missing in the news. We're missing those ordinary people stories, those powerful stories that no one's going to hear unless somebody tells it. And so I want to give people an opportunity to tell their story and for people to hear it and be inspired by it.
His podcast, the Quotivation Podcast, is available wherever podcasts are listened to, which is 7 million places now. But that's great because then you always have access to something. And jodypowellspeaks.com is your website. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Richard, I really appreciate it. This has been fantastic. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to fill out the form to be on his show because I want to come and hang out with you.
Absolutely. We're going to do it.
All right. Jody Powell, everyone, will be right back right after this. Set your notifications because you won't want to miss an episode of Make Your Day Richer. Host of the Quotivation Podcast, Jody Powell, is here. Sexual assault recovery coach Marie McKenzie joins us. Author of A Cup of Tea on the Commode, Mark Stephen Purrow sits down with Rich. Don Mamone teaches us about the benefits of never asking for permission. And Bob Weischer is here to talk about pre-birth trauma. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch. Make your day richer, weekdays at 10 a.m. He's so great, isn't he? I'm so glad he was here. All right. I hope you all had a great weekend. I woke up this morning at 4:15. I was supposed to go to the gym and I had a sick dog. So I dealt with that all morning, but it's fine. It's just a lot to wake up to at 4:15 in the morning. So I think this afternoon I'm going to go to the gym. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Hey, we have a new coffee sponsor. So I want to say thank you to Rachel for being a coffee sponsor. I appreciate all the support. If you'd like to be a coffee sponsor, go to buymeacoffee.com/makeyourdayricher, and we'll put the notes, or we'll put the link in the comments and in the notes, as well as Jody's website as well. So you can click on those and again, make it easy, right? I hope everybody had a great Father's Day. And you also know that at some point I'm going to have some show. This is my third show I've had. And there's always a chance and there's always a goal to have Rosie O'Donnell come on the show. So today I'm going to grab some random something from down here and show you, because mega fan here, right? And so this is, what's this? This is The Taboo. She produced a Broadway show that I believe was nominated for Tonys, even though the Tonys were last night. I don't know if anybody watched them, but a great Broadway show featuring Boy George that did not last that long. It was kind of bad timing on the Rosie O'Donnell fan club train, but it got some great reviews and some not so great reviews. But it was a fantastic album all the time. But especially during Pride Month, might be a really good time to download that and listen to it. It's an amazing cast album and a really good show. Anyway, Rosie, if you want to come on, I've got room right here. You could come right here. Okay, that's it. We have a great week ahead of us, as you just saw in the commercials, and we'll be back tomorrow with an all new show. I hope you have a great Monday, everybody. I love you, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.